Thank you, Bruce, for inviting me, and I hope you can all hear me. I don't need the microphone, do I? Okay. Thank you again for inviting me in to do what I like to do best, is talk about the Liberty Aviation Museum, or what is fast becoming known as the baddest man cave in Northwest Ohio. This is located up at the Erie Ottawa County Airport, and for those of you who are aviation enthusiasts, there's a local history up there of the Ford Trimotors that used to fly from 1940s to 1985 with the Island Airlines. Has anybody ever taken one of those airline rides? Yeah, okay. This history is really important up there, and that's what we're about. We're kind of two museums in one. I do a lot of outreach speaking fall, winter, spring, so I appreciate the opportunity to get out and do this. If you have some business associates that are a part of some of those other clubs that were mentioned before, if they're looking for speakers, please see me. I'll give you my card, because I'd love to go out and spread the word about what we're doing. Basically, I put this together to give you a snapshot of who we are, how we came about, what we're doing, and what we're doing in the near future. I first start with an introduction of a couple of friends of mine. A good friend of mine was the best man at my wedding. Knew this guy for about 40 years. He would say he earned his money the old-fashioned way. He inherited it from his parents. His father was an engineer, inventor, but also a patent attorney. Large, successful patent attorney firm out of Cleveland. George Jr. became an attorney as well, and they both had a couple hydraulic companies in the Cleveland area. Never got married. I remember the day when I was getting married, my future mother-in-law approaches George and says, "George, you ever going to get married?" He says, "No, I'm not." She's why? He goes, "I'm too selfish." And she knew George's involvements in all sorts of organizations, all sorts of historical reenacting groups, training clubs, all sorts of organizations that he gave a lot of money to. And she said, "How could that be if you're so selfish?" And he looked at her with a straight face, and guys will relate to this. He says, "I don't need a woman telling me what I can or cannot bring into my house." Because he is a collector. And he's got a house in Shaker Heights that I've been cataloging for the past 3 years. And we used to joke with George. Is that in focus? Mm-hmm. We used to joke with George that he had in his collection what museums wish they had, some one-of-a-kind type of things. He was military and train transportation, so he's got a huge Lionel train set that could fill about half this room, any train enthusiast. He's also got over 350 military uniforms from the United States. I had to literally stop counting them because they're tucked away in tubs in different parts of his house. He wasn't a hoarder, but he was a precise collector. And that's what I said. We would joke with him that, boy, museums wish they had some of this stuff. He's got English Civil War body armor. So just like from the Pilgrim period, he's got breastplates and lobster pot helmets. He's got about a half a dozen original American Civil War uniforms, and these are enlisted men's uniforms that were never issued. Really rare items. A lot of personal possessions from some notable people in history. And he had an interest in aviation. And over the past 20 years, he and another good friend of mine, Ed Patrick, he's the fellow on the left, they would sponsor air shows through what was then the Confederate Air Force. It's now called the Commemorative Air Force because it's politically correct. And they would sponsor these air shows. They were part owners of a couple airplanes themselves. George was real passionate about aviation. And during this time, up at Port Clinton, they got to know a bunch of people up there that were passionate about bringing the Ford Trimotors back to the airport where the Island Airlines were. And there's a group of people, it's part of an experimental aircraft association, folks who build airplanes for a hobby. And they decided they were going to build these things and bring it back. And they've been doing that for about 10 years. That's what it looks like at the old FBO. But when George passed away here just about 4 years ago, he left his estate for the creation of this foundation that would support these museums. So these people were doing their thing that was in line with George's principles. And their idea was, that's an old 1970s postcard of that building. If you've ever been to the airport, if I do this right, yeah, this building is still there. It's a little bit different now, but you'll see that sign here in a minute. If you when George passed away, our foundation, our museum was created. We acquired a B-25 Mitchell bomber. For those of you who have seen the movie Pearl Harbor, most people have seen the movie Pearl Harbor. How about those of you, show of hands, who's seen the movie 30 Seconds Over Tokyo? That's the better one. All right, this is the Doolittle Raider bomber, okay? We acquired this bomber, sent it off to Chino, California to have some more work done on it, and you'll see what she looks like in a little bit. In the meantime, we had an idea to build a building to house this aircraft in, because you just don't buy an aircraft like that and leave it sit outside. We thought we'd make it big enough that it would also house the Tri-Motor Heritage Foundation, that local EAA chapter, and their idea to build that tri-motor. So we got to work on that and opened the museum a year and a half ago, July 2012.